Good evening, everyone. My name is Laura Dant, and I'm the PCA Region Focus Coordinator. Welcome to the fourth quarter HPDE webinar presented by Mia Walsh, PCA National DE Chair.
Thank you so much, Laura. I'd like to also welcome Chris Lennon on to the admin panel of our chat. Chris is coming from Colorado, and he will be monitoring the chat questions as we go along. And Chris will also interrupt me if we need clarification on something along the way. So please feel free to use that function as we will be monitoring it closely. So without further ado, December 10th, our last fourth quarter 24 HPDE webinar. Welcome, everyone. As always, I'd like to thank our program sponsor, HPDE World. Pirelli provides sponsorship money to our program so we can go out to your regions and perform national instructor training courses at no cost to the regions. So if you haven't scheduled your 2025 National Instructor Training Program, please feel free to send me an email and let's get it on the calendar. And if you have any questions about what that would entail, I have a new program booklet that we rolled out in 2024 earlier this summer that gives you step-by-step instructions on what it takes to run a National Instructor Training School at your region. And I'm very pleased to, sorry, it's been a long day, very pleased to say that Pirelli has agreed to sponsor our program again in 2025. So again, grazie mille, Pirelli. Very quick agenda that I hope to get through in 45 minutes today. I am speaking to you from Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm here for back-to-back conferences, and I have perhaps we'll bump into some of you at the PRI show that starts on Thursday. I have some of my PCA drivers that are out here with me right now at the conference for Women in Motorsports North America. We got to kiss the bricks yesterday, so that was a lot of fun. Our agenda I sent out. We have a couple of updates we're going to be talking about, and really probably the meat of the content for the webinar tonight will be for the new approved 2025 minimum standards. Let us get started. This is the time of year where we often see leadership in the DE program change, and that could be new incoming chief instructors, DE chairs, registrars, safety chairs, as well as outgoing ones who have performed their service and volunteerism for the year. So I'd like to say a big welcome to any of the new ones who have already jumped in on this call, and a fond farewell and a great big bountiful thanks to all of the outgoing leaders who have served their regions in the DE world. Really, you all know that we can't run this program without volunteers, so I'm very, very, very grateful to all the regions who have taken the time to develop a really core team to put these events together. How that works, and I actually just received an email before I hopped on the call tonight. I'm a new DE chair. How do I get your webinars and all of the information you send? That is only done by the president of your region. The president of your region in December will, and anytime there are any changes throughout the calendar year, has something called a region continuity report. And in that report, they can identify the members who are serving in the leadership roles. Important to know that you can have multiple people in that one role. So if you have 2 DE chairs or 3 chief instructors or multiple registrars, your president can add all of those into the system, and all of my e-blasts that come out directly utilize that system. So if you are not in there, you're not going to be getting the email blasts from me directly. You will need to have your president update that in your region's continuity report. Okay, a couple of exciting things crossed my desk since the last time that we were together. And one of the questions I had been receiving for the last 3 years is, Mia, Canada does not have any kind of HPDE track insurance. And that was a barrier to entry for a lot of people up in our northern part of North America and Canada, whose drivers didn't want to maybe risk the possibility of hurting their car on track without any coverage. So I received a note maybe 6 weeks ago that a company called Acera, and I hope that I'm pronouncing that correctly, is a Canadian insurance company, and they're offering a program called Track Guard. This has nothing to do with PCA insurance. They are not a partner of PCA. They're not sponsoring us, but it has been something that I've received so many calls about from Canada. I really just wanted to share it. And so what happens, from what I understand, a region would have to register their DE event for their participants then to be able to purchase the individual insurance policies for their cars. And it's a per event on-track insurance program that covers car damage. I would presume it's just like any of the HPDE insurance programs that we have down here, as far as what value your car, if it gets totaled, and the determination, and that is a balance of what your policy fee would be. But the first step would be for the region to register their event for participant insurance. One big caveat is, we have a lot of our Canadian regions hold events at U.S. tracks, all along the border there. This insurance will not cover a Canadian event held at a U.S. track. I think my Canada West friends had run into that and figured that out, and they were kind enough to let me know that that was one of the caveats of the program. But I really hope that my Nova Scotia crew and my Upper Canada crew and all of my friends in Polar and Wild Rose, that you guys are listening and that you will look at this for some of your track events that you're going to be having held up there. Helmet extensions, helmet expirations. This happens every 5 years. We all get into a flurry that helmet dates are expiring. And I did get approval, before all of this transpires, so we all don't have to freak out in 2025. It happens that we have to extend, and I think it's really probably only been the last 3 chunks of 5 years. What happens is the manufacturers don't get their labels ready and their products ready. And from what I understand, for upcoming already in 2025, the SA 2025 labels won't even be available until April. I understand that manufacturers can't begin even selling the 2025 helmets until October. The way that our current minimum standards run is that a SA 2015 Snell SA 2015 would be valid through December of 2025. It's a 10-year. We've already gone ahead and given you that an extra 2 months. So March 1st be the new cutoff date for the new helmets. However, and Mike from Alabama, you've read my mind exactly, it's very likely or very possible that even in October of 2025, these new Snell SA 2025 helmets are not going to be available. So there is a possibility, I'm not saying that we're going to do it, but there is a possibility that, we will have to extend it again. We're certainly going to be following it very closely. But for right now, your SA 2015 helmets will be valid through February 28, 2026. What I need for you is you got to let your HPDE drivers know that. A lot of them won't follow stuff on the website for the minimum standards. It's a very technical-ish document, a very detailed document. So I think the minute that I sent out, I did send this blast out to you guys before, and I'm going to give Florida Citrus a round of applause because I think that they sent it out to their people within 2 hours of receiving it. I'm sure other people did. I'm just copied on some of their stuff because I attended an event of theirs recently. But if you haven't yet let your drivers know about that extension, please do so. And you all should be, looking at those when they're going through the tech line, throwing a sticker on the left-hand side saying that these are valid until what date. I just wanted to let you know we've preemptively extended that, knowing that we've got some supply chain issues coming up later in the third quarter of 2025. Okay, so Kevin from Mid-Ohio sent me an email because they have a stack of loaner helmets and was wondering if we could use any of our resources to maybe do some bulk programs. There's a lot of regions out there, and I'm not talking about individual sales, but loaner helmets. A lot of regions do provide loaner helmets to their entry-level participants. I certainly know also Autocross provides helmets as well, loaner helmets. So I'm going to ask in a minute, I'm going to read the question first, Laura, but Laura is going to launch a poll, and each of you will have a poll questionnaire pop up on your screen. And I would ask that you please answer the question: would your region be interested in a group bulk purchase of loaner helmets for your programs? And to get an idea, I'm looking if you want, 2020 helmets, 2025 helmets with just the open visor that covers over, and the full coverage of your face, or 2025 helmets with an open face, or finally, no, we would not be interested in that program. So Laura, if you haven't yet started the poll, I'd ask for you to launch that.
Yep, people are voting now. It looks like we've got about 50% of the people that have voted. So let's give it just another maybe like 10 or 15 seconds. If you can go ahead and submit your choice. Let's see, we're up to about 70% that have voted. 43% have said no, 25% would say 2025 helmets with an open face, and then it's about an even split between the 2020 and the options A and B.
Pardon me, Laura, I won't get a copy of who said what, correct?
You will. I'll send you the results of the poll.
And it'll tell me who clicked on which one?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay, good. So you guys don't need to email me. Thank you. I didn't want to wake up to another 50 emails in my inbox, but I'll grab that information and then I'll have it available, and we'll reach out to you if we can pull some of those things together. The 2020 helmet people, that would be something obviously that we would be able to do, this spring or, first quarter 25, because those are currently in inventory, obviously. For the 2025 helmets, obviously that would be something that would be pushed back in at least fourth quarter 2025. So just per that discussion that I just had about the availability of the inventory. Okay.
Hey, Mia?
Yes, dear. Oh, sorry.
Actually, I have a good question. Good question here. The question is, can you tell me where we can download the minimum standards document? And I'm not sure if this is referring to the existing one or the brand new one, but either way.
Guessing to the brand new one. I just got approval today from the EC on the final document. So I have not even sent it to the webmaster. I will do two things. We'll put it up on obviously PCA.org under forms and docs, but I will also send a blast email out to all of my DE chairs, my chief instructors, the region presidents, the zone reps, the safety chairs, and I'll send that all out once it gets uploaded by the webmaster. So it'll be up on that site. But as I said, I just got the information finalized today, so I have not had a chance to pop it up there yet, but it'll be, in the next couple of days. So thank you for asking that question. I did have that a little later in my slides. Oh my gosh, and I stopped on a giant spelling error again. I'm going back. I got a last minute question that I tried to slip into this presentation just a few hours ago, and this was from a region chair, and I see that I have helmet spelled incorrectly, which really drives me crazy. But he asked, or she asked, if the FIA 8860-28 helmets are an acceptable substitution for the SA 2015 or SA 2020. You may use the FIA 8860-2018 helmet. That would only be valid through 2028. Okay, I'm popping in here with a clarification. We did receive a live question during the webinar. I did not have all of the facts in front of me, so I didn't want to give out some bad information. And the question was regarding the FIA helmets as well as the SFI helmets, and when do they expire? We revert back to PCA club racing rules for anything other than the SA certifications. So for the FIA and the SFI, the club racing rules say that those helmets expire at the end of the 10th year after the year of manufacture. So that is clearly stated in the PCA club racing rules, and that is what the HPDE standards would follow. All right, here we are, minimum standards. I am good on my time. As you know, especially if you participated in any of these webinars in the past year, the rewriting of the minimum standards takes a long time, and I'm not going to go through all of the steps of the processes that you see on the screen. It began with my National DE Committee meeting in March of 2024, and we came up with, looking very closely at things that we'd seen out in the field, things that we've seen on our, in our own regions. We wrote some proposed language. I think early on in June, asked for some input from the regions. We got a lot of region responses on things that they would like to see changed or updated or clarified. So we really are grateful that you did participate in that discussion. We rewrote those. We sent them back to EC to look at, to make sure that it was content that they were comfortable with, but not approving. And once they took some things out that they wouldn't want to see in there, and then kind of gave a, okay, you can throw it back out. We did that in September with you all, our proposed minimum standards. And we did, once again, get a couple more comments back from there, which we actually also did incorporate. So thank you again. It's really good to see all around the country and in Canada some feedback from you all. And we finally got, as I said today, the final approval on all of the language from EC. So we're going to talk about some of the big ones tonight. And as I mentioned to Chris and whoever posted that question, the full document, I think it's probably 12 pages long. I haven't really looked at it as a full document in a little bit, but that'll all be posted, and I will make you aware of when we get that up on the website. So some of the major changes are that using turn signals has been approved for passing in addition to hand signals. I'm going to go into more details about what that looks like. We did get approval as well for a 120-day option for the pre-event technical inspections. Again, I'm going to go into more detail about that. We had a lot of success with the track experience program, and some of the regions wanted to see it to be able to increase participation. So we wrote some language to do that. And we did a lot of clarification of some items that a lot of you had brought into early on in the stage. So we're going to talk about some of those, but not as much because it's more stuff that you can read and it's very clear about what it means. So I say this all the time when I'm speaking to you all, that regions can have more stringent standards than those listed in our PCA national DE standards, but you cannot have any that are more lenient. This is very important for regions that have no intention of making their technical inspections valid for 120 days. You will be able to use any figure shorter, between 30 and 120 days on your technical inspection, as well as people or regions that have no intention of moving towards turn signals. You don't have to implement these changes, which are big changes for the PCA program, but you can't have any less stringent than what we're putting out there in our 2025 final. Okay, so I'm kind of just going to go through some of the highlights through the document and pull out the pieces or components. I'm not going to read everything. You're big adults out there who can go through the actual detailed verbiage, but had early on, can you please tell us what you mean by authorized region tech inspector? So we did put some clarification on that, and again, put the onus on the regions to define who is falling into this competent and capable inspector. You know, it could be dealerships, repair shops, independent, it could be mechanics, it could be competent and capable national instructors, drivers in your region that you have determined have this ability to do tech inspections. This has always been the case, but it was not defined well, that if you've got your region person that's doing tech inspections for, you know, several of your drivers, and they're going to be using ramps or lifts, PCA, and this is for your protection, the individual's protection and the region's protection, at no cost to the region, zero cost to the region, super simple, literally probably takes 60 seconds to do. There is a tech inspection event insurance on the PCA national website, and that covers, you know, any personal injury that, just like what would be covered on a DE with the DE insurance, that anything that happened at one of these tech inspections. PCA, this tech session event insurance, is not required for businesses or any of those repair shops that I talked about earlier in the paragraph. Those are organizations or companies that are doing the inspections on their own premises, and they will have their own insurance to do that. This is only for regions who are doing the tech inspections internally. I'm going to pause because I'm sure that might have popped up some questions, Chris.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Their minds are probably blown. So no, I'm only kidding. Okay. Incident policy clarification. This came from one of you. Our buff out clause was not clear, so we rewrote that a little bit and tried to make it clearer. And so, when do you need an incident report? When you have any contact which cannot be buffed out, but there's a little caveat noted below, any verbal altercations or personal injury of any person on site during the event, it requires an incident report. I have had regions tell me that they don't want to submit an incident report because they think they're going to get in trouble. And that is the absolute opposite of what it means. If you file an incident report, those people are covered under our, and the people who were in the incident, obviously they needed to have signed our waiver. They're covered under our insurance, and that is why we have the insurance is to really cover any of the injuries that might occur during our events. Now, it doesn't have to be somebody that's driving on track. It could be somebody, say, who is riding a scooter and falls and hurts their chin or something like that. But it could be somebody who twists their ankle or falls off a golf cart, something along those lines. So there's nothing bad about filling out incident reports. They are not 30 seconds, but they're probably 4 or 5 minutes to fill out. It enables those people to be covered under our insurance. The buff out damage caused by debris or to the wheels, suspension, undercarriage from an off-track excursion do not require a report. So obviously some of that stuff can't be buffed out, but it's then that is our exclusion clause there. And I know Chris will talk up if he has something for me. Okay, incident reports. Again, this was not ever written down anywhere, but if you have an incident and you file and you have an incident report, often or sometimes an insurance company might go to the region to ask for the incident report, or the individual might go to the region, safety chair or whomever submitted the incident report. Process is that those individuals or the insurance carrier should contact our PCA National Insurance Chair directly to request that. The individual incident report should not be given out to those by the regions. It should be a request that comes from those people directly to the National Insurance Chair. So that has been added to the minimum standards. I'm going to get into the 128-day tech inspection, but what happens if a car has an incident and they still have 3 months left on their 120-day tech inspection if your region decides to, bring in this new clear policy with 120 days. If the car is in an incident, it negates and resets this 120-day tech inspection, meaning they have to get a new tech inspection after they get their car fixed. And so there's a little process in place. It puts a smidge of onus on the regions. The person who's filling out the incident report also needs to make a note on the 120-day tech inspection the person is going to have, invalidating it. And it's going to be a lot clearer once you see the document of the 120-day tech inspection. But just know that if they're in an incident, they do have to get their car inspected again and present a new tech inspection form for any future events after that. And that makes sense, obviously. Anything, Chris?
Amazingly, no.
I think they're all had too many Christmas cookies already. Okay, this was something that we've ever since I've been part of the National DE committee, that we have gotten requests for using passing signals in lieu of hand signals. And it took a little bit of understanding what the tracks are doing out there, what the regions are doing out there. It's very different in different parts of the country, certainly different in Canada as well. But we did get approval for regions to use turn signals. Again, the paragraph is this long with the intricacies of that. I'm going to talk a little bit about it now, but you will be able to read through. We really tried to work hard to bring in every possible scenario as best we could. So I'm sure, there's going to be something that comes up somewhere down the road that we're going to have to address. But here we go. A region may use hand signals for passing with the windows down. A region may use turn signals either with the windows down, or the windows up. A region may not use both of these at the same time in an event. So you can't have one car doing hand signals and one car doing turn signals. The region has, and of course there's an exception to that, so don't start chatting with Chris about it. You have to decide which way you're going to go. Now, yes, there are exceptions as there exist currently. If I have a cup car and my windows don't go up and down, I obviously can't use hand signals, so I would have to use turn signals. There will be exceptions both ways. If I have, someone who has an issue with raising their arms because they have, something going on with their shoulder, or they're using hand controls because, they're paraplegic or something along those lines. Well, we have drivers that use that. So there's little intricacies and exceptions for all of those. Let's say one of the scenarios could be we run with our windows down and we use hand signals. But at lunchtime, a massive storm comes down and we want to run with our windows up and turn signals. Now, with some scenario like that, you can switch, given that you have a driver's meeting explaining to all of the drivers that we will now not be using our windows down with hand signals. We are now using turn signals. In this case, I'm sure the windows would be up, and going over the process of what that switch is going to make, what that means. And that is kind of how we wrote it in, but you still can't have, in general, hand signals and turn signals being used at the same time, only if it falls into some of that exception protocol of individual cars, etc. Now, the second big piece of the passing signals with turn signals is we have made it a flat decision. If you are using your right turn signal, that means you are telling the car behind you to pass you on the right-hand side. If you use your left turn signal, you are telling the car behind you to pass you on the left. And before you all start chatting with Chris, we know what they do in Europe. We know that what some regions in Canada do, or some regions and tracks, and but because we do have so many drivers that go from region to region, from zone to zone, driving in other events, we made the decision to make that one standard for all of PCA. Okay, and with the passing signals, the blinker goes on and off. You need to turn your signal off. If you're sending multiple cars past you, turn it on and off, give a minute, turn it back on, and it has to be a visible turn off, turn on to get multiple cars by you. Okay, that's all the breath that I have on this slide. Anything for me, Chris?
Amy, the questions are not really coming up real well here for me, but there's one that came from a couple slides back, and it wanted to talk a little more about what is meant by a verbal altercation for a incident report.
Well, a verbal altercation for an incident report could be two drivers getting in a fight. It could be someone cussing out another driver. It could be, a verbal altercation in the paddock. It has to, I don't know how other to describe that. It could be someone, we've had several incidents that have happened this year with people just kind of being jerks and yelling at each other. That's a verbal altercation.
Okay.
No, Chris, do you want to jump in on that one? I don't know how else to otherwise to describe that one.
A decent answer. Also, going back here, and apologies, I'm only seeing like one question at a time and I'm having to scroll up. But on the incident reports, there's another question here of will incident reports on the website be updated to easier report incidents other than car-to-car contact? I've noticed they're mostly focused and designed to report that only. Not sure that we've gotten feedback on that in the past, but
yeah, we haven't gotten feedback on that in the past. So I'm writing that down, whoever said that.
yeah, I've never looked at it from that perspective either. It might be interesting to look at it again.
I don't know if our committee has ever done anything on the incident report. So thank you for whoever brought that up. I will write that down right now before I forget. And I know that there are I have heard complaints about you can't have multiple people on an incident report or something along those lines. That you have to do multiple incident reports if more than one person was involved. But I don't know. I'll look into that. Thank you for whoever sent that question in. Makes total sense.
And finally, actually on this slide, question of if you're using the turn signal option, can there be a mix of windows up and down with cars on the track?
Yes.
Yep. I think I've got them all.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay. I'm only going to talk about this for a second. How, Mia, are we going to have someone have a 120-day document that's good for 120 days? Well, here is my recommendation. How it works, what the form is, there is the 120-day one that is 2 pages. I know you all hate that 2-page one, but it's for 120 days. The driver is going to have to be responsible for having that original document for the whole validity of the 120 days. So I'm a school teacher, put it in, I actually have one right here. I carry them with me all the time. Put it in a sleeve, stick it in your glove box. But you are, as a driver, responsible for maintaining your document for 120 days. There is a second document, 1-pager. Now you love me again, don't you? That the individual driver is going to hand in at every event. We need the tech inspection document. It's a much lighter version that it kind of pulls together some of the driver information, the signatures, the driver, emergency contacts, all of that stuff would be that 1-pager for every DE event that gets turned in. And then the 120-day document that the individual holds on to. Again, it'll make sense when you have the actual PDFs at your availability. Okay, I already talked about this, that if there's an incident, they've got to start over, and that the individual person who's doing the incident report has to make invalid that 120-day. Now, I have had many regions say there's no way we're going to a 120-day inspection. Totally, that is up to your decision as your region. I'd be interested to see maybe in January, the next time that I have a webinar, to see who's implementing it, or if you're not, I'll do a poll on that one. So you can have it less days than 120, but 30 is the minimum, and that will stay the same. So anywhere between 30 and 120 days. This comes up a lot. The equal restraints was already in the minimum standards. There's been no changes to that, except that you really need to communicate that with your drivers, especially when you're doing the driver and instructor pairings, because there are certainly many times where a driver, maybe a novice driver has already put in some harnessing systems, but their instructor doesn't have a Hans or a head and neck restraint system, whatever brand they choose to run. And so, really want to be clear in your communications with your registered participants that, if it's Hans and harness system on the driver's seat, if that passenger seat doesn't have it, then they all have to go to the lowest minimum denominator. And it has always stayed the same. It doesn't have to have an equal number of attachment points. In this scenario, this is the same. 5, 6, or 7 point harness systems are considered equal. So if I'm the driver and I have, a 6-point harness, but you have a different brand, on the passenger seat that's only 5, that is still considered equal. But 3-point is not equal to a 5, 6, or 7-point harness. Porsche GT seats, we had in the last iteration had added a whole section for Porsche GT seats, but we did add this, that the lap belts of the harness system on the Porsche GT seats may be attached to the carbon seat stock mounts. The harness shoulder belts shall be attached to either a properly mounted harness bar or to the roll bar. In our prior iteration, the lap belts being attached to the seat stock, the sliding mounts, like on the interior side, that was not an option before, or it wasn't spelled out before. So we wanted to clearly spell that out, that could be mounted to the seat stock mounts. Okay, how am I doing? Because I'm running low on my time. I'm getting to the base, but no more questions right now, Chris?
I've been answering some offline here.
Okay, what does the tech inspection form look like? Again, you'll have the full version of it. We really tried hard to figure out how to determine. And so they're just going to circle the month of the inspection and then put the inspection date underneath of that. And then it's valid for 120 days from there. If you club race and you have a club race logbook, you're used to having that with you at all times because you can't race without it. So it's putting the onus onto the driver to have that document available if they want to drive. It's basically you have to follow the rules. And just like, if I have my little club race yellow logbook, safety tied with the tie strips onto one of my roll bars, so I know that I have it with me all the time. And when I need to bring it to the scroots or registration when I check in, I just cut the zip tie and I have the document. I have the little book. So it's just putting the onus right back on to the driver. I got a question from Jim Burnett in Florida Crown that they're facing dwindling driver numbers in the solo run groups. And Jim talked a lot about that in one of the earlier webinars. A couple of the things that, we have done. I'm not going to talk a ton about it right now because I am running a little bit out of time. But, I think the 120 days was, in some regions, certainly not everywhere, a deterrent to people in the higher run groups or the solo run groups, because some of these other organizations don't have tech inspection requirements. We are also building, and again, you probably have heard this in one of the former September, maybe it was June, that we're putting together a lot of continuing professional education and classroom materials, a repository for them for the upper run groups as well. And in our region where I am, we make them pulling that education piece into these solo drivers to make them better drivers. And so if you keep them with the run groups and the people that they're used to driving with, and you kind of build a community with that, and that community could be learning additional skills for higher level driving. It could be, pulling some mentoring together, just kind of bringing them into the organization a little bit more. The regions, there's a lot of stuff that the regions can do to keep those solo drivers in the program. So, Chris, were you asking a question?
I was going to say, while people are answering that, a question did come in on the tech inspection form, whether that's available now or not, when and where it would be.
Literally, same thing. Literally, everything just got approved earlier today.
Yeah, so that'll be posted up along with the
all at the same time. Last call for Q&A, and hopefully we got everything put in. I'll keep talking, see if anything else rolls in. I have not put the 2025 schedule for our quarterly updates together yet. That I will send out as soon as I kind of look through the calendar and see what PCA National has going on and try to work around that. And Laura's schedule as well, because Laura volunteered her time to help me with these. Shout out for all the YouTube channel for the HPDE, for continuing professional education. You can search PCA HPDE. Once again, a gazillion thank you to all the volunteers out there. Couldn't run the program without you. I feel like Vanna White on this one. Don't forget our HPDE store and our instructor web store. 'Tis the season. I don't know if any you can get everything before Hanukkah and Christmas, but nice way to start the year out with some handsome matching DE or instructor ones. Shout out, we've got the PCA National DE Facebook group. You have to answer a couple of questions to get into that group. Many thanks to my national trainers all over the country and our DE committee members. And I'm leaving my contact information on that last slide in case you need to reach me directly at hpdechair@pca.org. Thank you all very, very much for your time tonight. I really wish you a very happy and healthy holiday season and a really fantastic 2025. It has been an honor to serve as your HPDE National Chair, and I thank you for being great stewards of our HPDE program. Laura, that is all I have, so I would like to bid everyone a fond good night, and thank you, Chris, for your chat work. I appreciate it very much. Good night, everybody.